You know, doctors thought the thing was gone. However, 600 measles cases were reported in the U.S. just last year. Many parents refusing to vaccinate their children after a doctor in the U.K. reported that measles vaccine was tied to autism. However, it was found that the guy distorted data and there was no concrete evidence whatsoever to support his claims. In fact, the guy later lost his medical license. However, we have a growing number of so-called anti-vaxxers. They're across the U.S., and those folks here, they refuse to vaccinate their children. And if you think it goes without consequences, think again. Several weeks ago, a measles outbreak spread across Disneyland after an unvaccinated family visited the California theme park. Arizona and other nearby states also reporting outbreaks. Doctors worried that a woman who contracted the disease in Arizona may have exposed nearly 200 children to the virus after visiting a clinic. More than 80 cases of measles spread across more than a dozen states have been reported to this point. Now folks in New York are concerned after a Bard College student diagnosed with measles traveled on an Amtrak train last week all the way up to Albany, potentially exposing thousands to a disease during his roughly hour-and-a-half trip.
It's a serious disease, and it would be terrible if we have preventable illness, or even death, from this disease that's preventable with a safe and effective vaccine.
If you've been vaccinated against measles and you're exposed to it, your chance of getting the disease is 1%. If you haven't been vaccinated, 90%. The vaccine really, really works.
This drives me nuts. I mean, there's one thing, fine. You want to do what you want to do with your own kids, okay. But to put your children unvaccinated for a disease that's so treatable and to put them in, expose them to other kids right now, and then to say, oh, well, you know, who knew? We all knew. There's his chances. We all did this. Just to me, it's so infuriating, the selfishness of some folks. If you want to go do that and you want to go live in an island, fine, but you don't live in an island. You get on a train, you go to a theme park, for Christ's sakes. Kids under 1 can't get the vaccine, right? They got to wait till they're 1, right? And then other people that have immune deficiencies, they can't fight this fair. And you're going to go and expose them to this just because you believe some, you know, medicine here that's not based in anything called fact. It drives me crazy. And it's part of, I think, a bigger theme, distrust of government and anything on the internet right now. Some people choose to believe, oh, forget what the CDC or the AMA thinks or the Surgeon Generals think. You know better because you read it online.
No, it is very, very frustrating because, like you said, there are certain members of the population, young children, for instance, who cannot protect themselves because they can't get the vaccination in time. So, you know, it is very, very frustrating. But I think what we do need is a strong and coherent message from our public health officials talking about the reality of the situation. And, you know, sometimes...
Well, don't you think we have it? I mean, we've heard from everybody on every TV station saying, vaccinate the kids.
But not just, and this may sound a little sinister, but not just to the people not vaccinating, but peer pressure, the psychologists say, works an awful lot in these cases. So to tell people, you've got to get your friends and neighbors to get their children vaccinated, and here are the facts, because you and your children are at risk if you don't.
How about this? You're hearing right now that parents aren't inviting children who have not been vaccinated to birthday parties. Doctors are refusing to have non-vaccinated children come to their waiting rooms and be treated because they could expose other kids in there. Me? Fantastic. I do the exact same thing. And you know what? Furthermore, if I owned a restaurant, you don't get vaccinated, don't come in, right? And I mean, that might sound harsh and all the rest here, and who likes to pick on a kid? But if the parents are going to be idiots and jeopardize other people's health,
But I do think we need a combination of information in that, but I don't think it's going to solve the problem necessarily, because I do agree with you that the distrust that people feel for not just the government, but for anybody in a position of authority has, you know, come to the point where people just are not willing to listen to the facts at hand. And so we see this in global warming, for instance. I mean, we've got, what, 49 senators who don't believe in global warming.
People celebrating their ignorance.
I think we'd be well served, though, just to look. I understand the fear of parents, and autism is a horrible disability, and It's affecting a wider and wider population. People don't know why, and parents are scared. And they see things online like vaccinations may be linked to it. And yes, it's been debunked, but there's still enough information out there, and parents are trying to do what they think is the best thing. I think part of this would be providing greater information, and maybe let's get some more research on autism so that that's not one of the lingering reasons why parents choose to do this.
But Tom, there's one thing, I appreciate your point, okay? But you're not going to catch autism from a person. Choosing to be non-vaccinated, you're making a conscious decision to willingly expose other people, including infants, to your selfishness that's not based in fact.
I understand that, but again, most of the parents who make this choice are basing it off of fears of autism. So I think if we increase the education, we increase the information, and we actually increase the research on autism.
Do you really think people need more information that's already out there? Every medical official on the planet says it's BS.
I think clearly we do.
Otherwise, do you think just people like to disbelieve?
We wouldn't have an outbreak of measles right now.
We do need a cure for autism, and we do need to know what causes it.
But I think that's a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out in that you believe there's not enough information there. I believe the information is there, but people want to believe in the conspiracy theory. And no matter how much information campaigns, they'll just turn around and say, oh, you know what, Andrew? These people, you're just shilling for the government who's trying to make money off prescriptions. What do you do with these people?
I think laws like the one in California that gives parents the option of opting out of vaccinations are misguided and probably hurt the overall public health. I would like to see those laws reversed and make it mandatory again.
Richard, it's ridiculous. You don't, so you don't want to give your child a shot, but you want the same rights as every other American. Oh, that makes it hypocritical. I mean, come on, give me a break. This is a public health issue. No offense, Professor. No offense, Andrew. There's enough information out there. If you don't want, I always thought that without these shots, you can't register your child for school and that you have to prove it.
Right. And you know if schools started turning kids away from it, I'd be 100% behind
right.
it.
Period. Period. You don't want to get the shot? Okay, well then go live somewhere else.
Right. Do it. You don't want to do it? Fine. Homeschool your kid. But don't expose other kids here because you choose to make a selfish act based off of zero of science.
Because, Richard, you're right about the conspiracy, and once you open that door, it will never stop.
I've had
every
a
single
conversation
issue.
with somebody
Every single issue.
who said, well, Jenny McCarthy said whatever. And I'm like, listen to the conversation we're having. A former playmate is telling you what's science here, while the Surgeon General, the American Medical Association, you go up and down the thing, the CDC, they all don't know anything. They're all out trying to get you here. Okay, finally, there's one thing with parents being misguided, but I'm sorry. When politicians do this and they know better, including New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, on the subject of vaccinations, this is not a new debate for the governor. Christie says parents should have some say on whether or not they choose to vaccinate their children. Now, despite what Obama and most doctors have to say, Christie said the parents, quote, need to have some measure of choice when it comes to vaccinating their children against the virus. Christie's office later sent out a tweet saying the governor believes vaccines are an important public health protection, and with a disease like measles, there's no question kids ought to be vaccinated. At the same time, different states require different degrees of vaccination, which is why he was calling for balance. You know, you go back to 2009, Andrew, governor was singing a different tune. He said firmly that he supported families dealing with autism and so many words, he blamed vaccines for it. Now, the letter he sent out in 2009 had this following passage, quote, I have met with families affected by autism from across the state and have been struck by their incredible grace and courage. Many of these families have expressed their concern over New Jersey's highest in the nation vaccine mandates. I stand with them now and will stand with them as their governor in their fight for greater parental involvement in vaccination decisions that affect their children. I have two huge problems with this. First of all, A, he should have known better when he said that. And secondly, to turn around and put the press release out right now. Where is the authenticity that I've always defended this guy on, that he shoots straight? Why didn't he say, you know what, 5.5 years ago, I was wrong. I was wrong when I said that. Everybody ought to be vaccinated. And if anybody took me 5.5 years ago to say you shouldn't vaccinate it, and it's 6 of one, half dozen the other, I apologize, because it's in the best interest of all New Jerseyans that everybody gets vaccinated, period, exclamation
Richard,
point.
do you really believe Chris Christie shoots straight and calls it exactly the way it is?
I think if he said what I just said, people would appreciate it more than that press release.
Well, since he put out the letter in support of the parents, Where's the letter when he refused to meet with the parents of Sandy Hook, when all of those parents lost their kids, and he basically berated them? Chris Christie, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to keep saying it to the day he drops out of the presidential race. He's a bad copy, a bad version of Rudy Giuliani. That's all he is.
Chris Christie, the presidential wannabe candidate, his position is not consistent with that of Chris Christie, the governor, and it really can't be. As the top public health official in the state of New Jersey, as the top official in the state of New Jersey, he can't be anti-vaccination. And New Jersey does have among the strongest vaccination laws in the country. Kids have to be vaccinated when they go to school. He can't be basically saying, I disagree with this law that's in place that I've been enforcing for the last 5 years. At the same time, he doesn't want to lose the libertarian, Republican, we hate anything the government's doing mantra that has served him well in the past. He's not alone. Rand Paul also does not believe the vaccination should be mandatory. So he doesn't want to lose that chip in the presidential race.
I'll only say this. We get on here every night. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we say you disagree with, and you have every right. In fact, we support you to disagree or agree with whatever we're saying. But for people who sit in chairs like mine, who go out there and parrot these things about government conspiracies and all the rest, if you think it has no consequences, look no further than this issue. It's become acceptable in this country to take fact, put it on the back burner, and throw out any other innuendo because it makes for an interesting segment, and then you move on. And again, this is where we get to when we do all this stuff here. Facts be damned. And unfortunately, we could have an outbreak of measles. All right, please head over to Facebook and Twitter and sound off on our question about the anti-vaxxers, as they're called. Do you think they're responsible parents, or are they putting everybody at risk? And by the way, I'm going to be talking about this with attorneys on Wednesday, if maybe there should be some potential, at least civil exposure, if not criminal, for what they're doing if it was your kid who got sick because they chose not to vaccinate theirs. All right, coming up next. It was a close game, as we all know, and the highest rated or viewed game of all time, I understand here. Today, though, some Seahawks fans still trying to get over exactly not only how they lost, but what the heck were they doing throwing the ball on the 1 yard line. We'll talk about that and some of the amazing ads here people still talking about a day later.